Away from that, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Natare Yawata, says that the federal government is targeting 15 million households and 75 million people in its conditional cash transfer scheme. According to him, each household will be paid 25,000 naira per month twice in a year. Yawata said the move is part of President Bola Tinubu's push to cushion the impact of economic hardship on vulnerable Nigerians. The minister said the federal government has been able to reach 5 million persons so far and is working on sanitizing the social register. President Tinubu had earlier suspended the scheme administered by the National Social Investment Program in January owing to alleged corruption in the program. Let's now join. Let's bring in Alesta Wilcox, is an economic affairs analyst, and he joins us to give a bit of insight on the story. Alesta, many thanks for joining us. I have to ask you, it appears that in general sense, handouts have become a long-term solution to poverty. How long will this continue? The president paused this conditional cash transfer scheme in January, citing corruption. It's now being brought back, and it looks like it's because of the stampedes. But for how long are we going to keep relying on transfers or just short-term solutions such as this?
Well, thank you for having me, and let me also say compliment of the season to you and your esteemed listeners. You can't do away with, there's no side that can do away with some support for the vulnerable. It's like that everywhere in the world, even the most advanced economics, the US, the UK, there's one form of support in order to bring about some social equilibrium, because it's not everybody that is opportuned. Everywhere in the world, like if you in your last in the last news, I enjoy what your guest was saying. You can never do away with the poor. Even in the Bible times, even the Bible talks about that there will always be poor, the poor among us. So there must be some form of support, either from government, from agencies, especially from governments. You know, in the US, you have the food stamps. When people are hungry, they obtain the food stamps, go to food bank to get food. There are transfers. I mean, one of the things that Donald Trump used to bamboozle the Americans was cash transfer during the coronavirus and even after. So it's always there. But the problem I'm having, which I want to address, is how it is done in Nigeria. The quality of the data used in Nigeria to identify households that are that should require such assistance is what I'm quarreling with. But that citizens should not be given some support, I think that is a worldwide phenomenon. But however, it must be taken with great stride and caution so that it meets the real objective of what is intended to meet.
So when we look at what is happening, right, with the stampedes already, aren't you worried about, aren't you worried? Let's start there. With the stampedes already, 3, Anambra, Abuja, and then Ibadan, 35 children dead already. What's your take?
Well, let me commiserate with those families that lost their families, their loved ones, and all that. But sincerely, I put the blame squarely at the feet of the victims themselves. We understand this country. Look, anybody that is not appreciating who we are, the kind of disorganized personality that we are in terms of we Nigerians, anybody that does not understand that fact, then we make a mistake. Nigerians rush at everything. Nigerians will all rush at, go and stand on the road and start sharing ordinary paper, and say Nigerians will rush for it, so long as it is free. So that's our nature. We rush and rush and rush everything we do. No orderliness. We are not orderly. We are not cultured, and that is like exactly what your former guest was saying, and which I agree totally. It's inherent in us. Look, presently, Gaza is going through a very terrible economic and situation and shortages. But you see, when they share rations in Gaza, people queue, people wait, people understand, and people go about it in a manner that is civilized, that is orderly. But also in Nigeria, we have hidden under this atmosphere of Nigerians are hungry, or economic reality, economic opportunities. It's not today. At least by God's grace, I've followed the Nigerian politics and Nigerian economics since the days of Shagari administration. Because now we used to say in those good old days. In those days, we complain more than we are complaining now. Even the opportunities now that is not available in those days. I remember Shagari was called Shagari, Shehu Shagari, because people were, rice was, the policy of rice started in the Umar Diko days of the Shagari administration, when rice become an essential, if you are sharing rice in those days, in the 80s, it's like it's as if you are sharing dollars and you are sharing a diamond to people. So that is who we have been. I'm worried about this stampede. I'm worried that we're not learning. I'm worried that people do not have dignity, even in poverty. There should be dignity. But we don't have dignity. We throw caution to the wind when we see any little thing that we want to benefit. We throw caution to the wind and we behave like persons that do not have, that are not cultured, that do not have standards. And then the organizers will not organize properly. So these are the issues. Government has its own responsibilities. I agree totally with you. Government has its responsibility. But who is government? Who is government? Government is from local government, the state government, the federal government. But in this case, most of them are not, we only look at the federal government as government. No.
All right.
The government is called down into agencies, into parastatals, into departments, up to the list. So these are all the gamuts of government. And who makes them up? It is we the Nigerians, that not know how to organize ourselves. We cannot drive safely on the road. We cannot drive properly on the road. Even when the road is bad, see how we drive, we make ourselves vulnerable. So we make ourselves vulnerable to some of this that's happening to us.
Alesta.
It is purely man-made and could have been managed better.
Alesta, management or no management, event managed better or not, one of the things I do not like to contribute to is victim blaming. 35 children have died, and I will not be part of that. And also, I'm sure I represented the team here when I say we're not going to be victim blaming children where they are just trying to enjoy what seems to be a festive season. And also to other, everyone who's lost their lives do not need to lose their lives. But you reeled out our history. You went ahead to reel out our history. You went as far back as Shagari, and it was nicknamed Shagari. And it's very interesting that you would say Shagari, because it takes me to my final question for you about our timeline when it comes to human capital, human development, and the purchasing power, the very bare minimum of economic advancement and growth and freedom for the family unit. In 2022, correct me if I'm wrong, it was 2022, that the MBS put out the report of about 135 million Nigerians out of our 200 plus million Nigerians are in multi-dimensional poverty. That was the first time I've heard that term, multi-dimensional poverty. That was 2 years ago. Since that time, the price of fuel have changed. The price of a pint of Gary has changed. The price of biscuits have changed in the last 2 years. So I can only imagine what the stats will be like now going into 2025 with all of the variables that have changed. I haven't even put a dollar to naira. And so I have to ask you, with all of the changes that we've seen from one administration, whether it's democratic or military, what really will be the outcome of a society? Are we going to be victim blaming? Is our people going to rely on philanthropy and philanthropists? Are we going to be relying on goodwill of do-gooders? Are we going to be relying on conditional cash transfers of, how much is it now? Just to be clear, 25,000 naira per month, 3 times in a year. 25,000 naira cannot buy a bag of rice. Your take?
I am not doing victim blaming. Sorry for my use of words, but I'm talking about Nigerians as a whole, because when somebody lost his life, when children are gathered, when you gather children to feed them and you didn't organize them properly, then you take responsibility. If this has happened in the UK or anywhere, those organizers will be cooling off themselves with police investigation and all that. So I'm not doing victim blaming. I'm only telling you a clear understanding of our culture, of who we are. And until we work that in our lives, you see, discipline starts from you. when the Buhari administration came in 1984 and brought war against indiscipline, it was the minute that government left, Nigerians obey. When that government left, what happened? People went back to their old ways. So it is we, our indiscipline, that is the problem. I'm not blaming any victim or anybody who has suffered any loss. Now, coming to your statistics, my dear, you read out the things that went up. You didn't say labor went up. You didn't say income also went up. You already read out the ones that went up. You didn't say income went up. You didn't say opportunities expanded. You didn't say that the MPRO has made a lot of people to be richer by buying treasury bills if you know what to do. You didn't say that the stock market grew astronomically, that has made a lot of people to make money. But you're only looking at the negative one. Well, number one, let me also say this with all sense of modesty. I don't believe the NBS. The NBS is one of the weakest data gathering analysis organization in this country. I don't believe their data. I don't know how they arrive at them. I have been able to try to figure my head around it. I can't find some nexus between their data. Yes, I agree with you, there is serious poverty. What are the drivers of poverty? Unbridled population growth. Unbridled population growth is part of the problem that enhances poverty. You know yourself, you cannot fend for more than 2 children. You are having 4, you are having 5. You are in one room. Who should do that for you? The government should come and control you. Can't common sense control you? Assuming, but not conceding, that we have, let's say, 1/3 lower than the population we have today in the last 25 years or 30 years. Do you think the poverty will have expanded more than, the country will have been better more than what it is now? Our land is thinning out. Agricultural land is thinning out. People are in urban cities, doing other businesses other than agriculture. Now you will say, you blame it on the insecurity. Yes, I agree with you. But we are still producing food. Then when it goes, like today, there's no onions now, is in short supply. And today we are blaming the government. So how? So until we begin to work on ourselves, yes, the government cannot feed everybody. I just told you, in the US, in the UK, and in other developing European countries, people are poor and government gives them support. I talk about food banks and the food stamps that is very, very popular in the US. I talk about a soup kitchen, popular in the UK and other places. So there are poor people everywhere, but there is dignity in poverty. People who are poor also have an element of dignity. So if you throw dignity away in the name that you are poor,
all right,
you must eat, and you must, it will those things, how long will those even serve you?
All right.
The next day you are carrying the baby on your back, or pregnant for another baby, and you are talking about you are poor. All right. And you're talking about government should help you. Help yourself.
All right.
Blaming anybody. I'm not even victim blaming.
All right. Well, I mean, Alesta,
where I want it to be.
Alesta, what I'm taking away from this is that we should get used to seeing poor people scramble for food, because at the end of the day, you know, poverty.
No, don't get me wrong.
Alesta,
if you want to, I agree with you. I'm not saying I have poor people around me, and I don't encourage anybody to go and start looking for food. Look, what does it take? Look, does going to look for food, does it solve your problem? There must be dignity in poverty.
All right. So
Nigerians like anything free.
So
I'll say it is free.
Alesta,
even if you don't need it, you will rush for it.
All right. So Alesta,
that's not what I mean. There must be poor people among us, but there must be dignity in poverty.
All right. So there must be dignity in poverty. We're pressed for time. Alesta, many thanks for doing this with us. Alesta Wilcox, there is an economist who just joined us to have a bit of insight, economic analyst.